I'll tell you one game that we used to play, and I could run a little bit playing the sport of fast pitch, and I attest my speed to a game called Bull Nuts. So on the other side of the fence, on the outfield fence at the St. Lawrence Ball Diamond, there's a cow pasture with a bull in it. So if you hit the ball in towards the bull, you tried to get as close as you could, but you had to run and get the ball and then come back over the fence. And Lord loving Jesus, there was a couple of close calls back in the day.
Well, how I've known you since 2006. How did I not know about bull nuts until today? Holy!
I tell you what.
Yeah,
I'd be some bunter if I grew up in that town.
Get out of here! I told you, Mr. Drama.
I used to be a ladies' man, but I'm unhappy now. For courting 6 girls all at once, they used me.
Say bye-bye, baseball!
My mother said it was naughty, I should take some years back. But I said if it's naughty, sure it's also very good.
And the Wally drops his glove, grabs Dalton. The benches are clearing.
Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly is brought to you by CoolBet. If you got a few extra bucks rattling around in your arse pocket, CoolBet Sportsbook will double your first deposit up to $200 when you use the bonus code DUSTUP. Head over to coolbet.com and get in on the fastest growing entertainment sector in the world. That bonus code again is DUSTUP, one word, all capital letters, DUSTUP. And we're rolling again, fellas. Episode number 12, A Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly. And Hilly, we're back recording these new episodes. We got great guests lined up and another banger of a guest coming on with us tonight, Jeff Ellsworth.
Yeah, former teammate Jeff Ellsworth, now coach Jeff Ellsworth. So might have to behave a little here tonight.
Well, yeah, you watch your P's and Q's. We're not getting cut on our own podcast. So he got a great story, though, Hilly. Yeah, he's coming from a real small town in PEI. He's worked his way, setting goals early on in his career, worked his way up to be ISC MVP and multiple champion, Team Canada captain for a number of years, world champion and Pan Am Games champion there, and then transitioned into coaching at the highest level, junior men's program with Team Canada, now an assistant coach on the men's national team, and head coach and GM on Hill United. And we just had a great experience this summer with him, and we're in for a great episode.
Yeah, obviously he's had a remarkable career. He's got a lot of good stories to tell. He's got a lot of knowledge to pass along. So I'm pretty excited to have a chat with him tonight.
Well, here we go. One of the great guys in the game, Jeff Ellsworth. There he is, Hilly, the skipper, Jeff Ellsworth.
Welcome, Coach. Good to see you, buddy.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, this is excellent. We've been talking about this one for a long time, and we wanted to wait till after this season got done. We got back settled in, and here we are. So thanks for coming on with us. What's going on in PEI right now?
Not too much, actually. The ball season got extended here in the island with the kids and stuff, fall ball. So just wrapped up yesterday. The weather's been great, still in the 20s. So it's been great so far.
That's wicked. It's still outside. You got the camps and all that going on again this year?
Yeah, we just started a 30-week camp at an indoor facility in Richmond, PEI at Route to Success. And anyway, we ended up filling up an intermediate class and an advanced class. So every Thursday night for the next 29 weeks, we're going to be committed to that. And
wow.
Yeah, it's a blend between baseball and softball players. So it's a fun time.
Is there any form of junior softball, senior softball in the island right now?
Unfortunately not. The last time we had any form of organized men's or boys softball was when Mark Quinn did the last Canada Games. And Steve Noonan, he was appointed the coach for this upcoming Canada Games next year in Niagara Falls. And he tried and searched the island and just he couldn't find anybody.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting too. And I was thinking about this earlier because when we look at the players that we got a chance to play with over the years, there's a lot of different backgrounds. A lot of it is people from small town or small provinces, and it's the same across the world. We talk to people from New Zealand, Australia, Argentina, different countries, but still there's kind of pockets where softball is a lot more prominent than other areas. But you got a pretty cool story because you come from one of the smallest towns of anyone I've known and played with. And I'm not sure what the ball scene was like when you were growing up, but to make that jump from a young player in a really small province to do what you've done in the game, give us a little bit of insight on how that came to be, coming from a really small province and a small town within that province to be one of the best players in the world and world champion on all levels.
Well, I was pretty fortunate growing up in that small town of St. Lawrence. There was only 32 people living in the community, but we were all dad had 15 brothers and sisters, and a lot of them still lived in and around home. So I had some older cousins that played the sport and played it very well. And it was an every day after school, every day, every Saturday, every Sunday, you'd meet at the ball diamond. And I can remember one of the first activities that we ever did. I was only about 11 or 12. We had to throw the ball up and hit it. And our older cousins were at the fence. So if we actually hit it over the fence, we got a point. But if they jumped up and caught it, they got a point. Right. So it was the first team to 10. And then the next summer, we're actually on second base and did the exact same thing. And then next thing you know, we're actually doing it from home plate. So I attest the hitting aspect of the game and being able to hit for power, because you didn't want to lose because they torment the shit out of you. So, yeah, it was just an everyday thing. And in the small town, there was no distractions. There was no iPhone. There was no YouTube or nothing like that. So you want to be outside all the time. So that's I was really fortunate to have a lot of family around.
We did the same too growing up. A lot of it, luckily, and I say it like that, luckily we didn't have those distractions, and it was always going out to meet up. It's similar. I used to go down, freshwater is a small spot too, right? Go down with a bucket and an old aluminum bat and fill up rocks in the bucket and stand on the wharf and see how far out into the Atlantic Ocean we could hit them. And then my cousins, we would go and we'd play over in the playground and play, well, we call it strikeouts. Hilly, you guys had a similar thing. I'm not sure what you called it in town, Anaheim or something, but you guys did a similar thing, didn't you?
Yeah, a few different names. That overhand fast, I called it, but Anaheim was one of the names, yeah.
Pitcher, catcher, outfielder, pretty much.
Yeah,
using a tennis ball or a hockey ball. But that was fun. And I attribute a lot of the skill development at a young age to, you don't really feel like you're practicing. You're just out playing with your buddies, and it's when it's fun, it's a lot easier to learn, right? And I've been lucky. I've had some good ball players in my community, but it sounds like it was pretty similar, making up your own games outside, playing with your cousins and all that. Elsie, was it?
I'll tell you one game that we used to play, and I could run a little bit playing the sport of Fastpitch, and I attest my speed to the game called Bull Nuts. So on the other side of the fence, on the outfield fence at the St. Lawrence Ball Diamond, there was a cow pasture with a bull in it. So if you hit the ball in towards the bull, you tried to get as close as you could, but you had to run and get the ball and then come back over the fence. And Lord loving Jesus, there was a couple of close calls back in the day. But no,
well, how I've known you since 2006. How did I not know about bull nuts until today? Holy!
I tell you what.
Yeah,
I'd be some bunter if I grew up in that town.
No, that was a fun game, but I don't recommend it for anybody to give it a try, because it can be fairly dicey, fairly sketchy quick.
I'd like to see you play it now.
Did you get to play at Canada Games and stuff? Did you follow that age category? Did you miss it, or did you?
Funny you say that, Hilly, because the Canada Games, you know how nowadays where you go to cut an athlete and, you got to give them 1,000 excuses as to why. And, I was the first cut of Canada Games. We went down to a ball field in Kensington. And I'll never forget, I'll not say the coach's name, but anyway, he run us through with practice. And, Christ, I got a ball hit to me, and I threw out a few runners at home like I did you in Charlottetown. And
here we go.
Anyway, I hit the ball well. And anyway, he brought us all to the outfield in a half a circle, and he just started with the finger. You come back, you come back, you come back. And I was the first one. Don't come back. Don't come back. Try another sport. He told the kid, don't come back, and so on and so forth. So I was the first officially first cut of Canada Games. So I missed
really?
It. Yeah.
Did that stick with you as a player growing up?
Yeah. And it was two choices. Then obviously it pissed me right off.
Yeah. But
it pissed me off to the point that it was just a tournament. So there's going to be more tournaments, and I just wanted to basically prove that coach wrong. So I actually thank him now for actually doing it, because it made me work twice as hard.
Yeah. with coming from PEI, and there's a lot of really good ball players. There was the Fawcett's program back in the day. There was Summerside Twins and all that. So there was a pretty established senior ball circuit and something to strive to. But to go from a town of 32 people, where half of them are your dad's brothers and sisters, to now making the jump to the ISC. When did the ISC come on your radar?
So in 2000, I got picked up to play with the Summerside Greco Twins, and I was still junior age. And Duke Cormier and Roger Hearn actually took a chance on me and brought me on board. And it was my first real exposure to the men's circuit. We drove to Ontario, and we did a circuit up there. And anyway, I got to face Frank Cox and Todd Martin and those guys, and just fell in love with it then. But then in 2001, we hosted the Canadian Championships in Summerside, and then I got exposed to like the big crowds and Fastpitch with the big crowds around, and really like that. And lucky enough, I got asked to move to Winnipeg in 2002 to play with the Winnipeg Westman Alliance, and Steve Langley and I from Nova Scotia. We packed up and moved out there, and it just snowballed from there.
I remember going to ISCs in Summerside 94, I believe.
Okay.
And I think, was the Greco Twins, were they not the host team that year?
I think they were. Yeah, I think the Summerside Greco Twins were in that tournament. I think I was a spectator back then. But as Lolly said, they had a great program for a lot of years. Duke Cormier was at the head of the ship. And
yeah, the reason why I asked, my old man went to that ISC, and I thought for sure there was a Newfie pitching for
Tilly.
Was it Tilly?
Mike Tilly.
Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike Tilly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he spent some time in a Greco Twins uniform. I never got a chance to play with him. But anyway, whenever I was there, it was Gerald Muesler, Robbie Schweier, that bunch. Actually, the New York Rangers played in left field, and I remember I was playing center, and all of a sudden now we got the Detroit Red Wings legend Gerard Gallant playing in left field, and I'm like,
right.
And all I heard in the first game, he looked over to me, he says, "Hillbilly." I said, "Yes, sir." And he drew a line about 2 inches from his left foot. Everything from this line over to you is yours, and if you don't get it, kill you. So I had a big ground to cover because Turk wasn't the fleet of foot. I don't know who'd run faster, him or Timmy McCumber. I don't know.
Timmy to this day is still the funniest guy to watch. To watch someone hit a triple. You know, when he got a bear down to go around, I said to him one day, I said, "Timmy, man, watching you run is like watching Pinocchio the first day he's off his strings." Legs going everywhere. But that was good. And we had Robbie O'Brien. So this was back now, I don't know how many months ago we had our first episode, but we had Robbie on. He was talking about getting a chance to play with Turk and the friendship that formed there, and him being a good teammate. And it's when you see an NHLer, right? And then we're fast pitch players, right? We're just going on weekend tournaments and doing all this stuff. But to have that guy in your backyard, that must have been pretty cool.
And Turk, he took me under his wing, and every tournament that we went to, anytime I needed to drive or whatever, I just jumped in with Turk. And anyway, he looked after me the whole summer, so it was great.
That's awesome, man. So you move out to Winnipeg. That was one of the biggest moments in your career. Just you made the jump at that point. Said, all right, I'm going to leave, and I'm going to put a commitment and focus on trying to get better and get established out there. And that was the springboard into ISC, into playing with a top 10, top 15 team with Kegel, was it?
Yeah, and whenever I got to Winnipeg, the intent was just to play. They were hosting the Canadian Championships that year, but there was a Thursday night league in Fargo, so we traveled down to Fargo every Thursday night and played in that league, and that's how I got to meet John Kegel with the Kegel Black Knights.
Right.
And then, so after that season was over, then Kegel extended the olive branch and said, "Do you want to come and play in a Kegel uniform?" And I wasn't too fussy to move down there for the summer. But he said, "No, we'll just fly you back and forth on weekends." And I was just dumbfounded that was even a possibility then. Because prior to leaving the Winnipeg, I don't even think I was on a plane before. So that was crazy. And then I got to the goddamn airport in effing Winnipeg. And I'm standing there. So, all right, I'm at a PEI for the first time at my community of 32 people, and I'm just standing there. Nobody's there to pick me up. So everyone's getting their bag and their luggage, and now there's 50 people. Now there's 25. Now there's 2, me and another person. I'm like, where the Jesus is these guys at to pick me up? And the fuckers were in behind a one-way glass or whatever, looking at me the whole time, because if they wouldn't have showed up, I was jumping on the next plane back.
Yes. There you go.
That was my
Welcome to
initiation.
Winnipeg, boy.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And, funny story, the first time, John Peters, he had his own cement foundation company. And so anyway, we had to lay foundations all summer. So one of the jobs was that you put up the forms, but then you got to run string lines. And the string line is hooked attached to a stake. Anyway, John Peters was holding the stake, and he said, "You go get the maul. You hit it." I'm like, "Okay." So I got the maul, and I just tapped it right easy. He says, "Hit it." So I hit it a little bit harder, and then he screamed at me the third time and called me a putz or something. Anyway, I swung it the next time. Didn't I miss the stake, and I broke his hand first day. Jesus. Yeah.
I don't know if he'd be more concerned about his hand, or is this fella going to be able to get a hit or what?
Yeah, exactly.
These Kegel boys are still around, eh? They've been around. I feel like they've been here forever.
They do it right, man. Like, they're such a family-orientated, first-class organization. And, you know, if you're going to get exposed to an ISC team right off the bat, that was a really good one to be involved with. There was kids around every weekend. All the wives and girlfriends were there. It was just a fun atmosphere to be around, but they're competitive too. Every year they kept adding a couple pieces. Like, they had the Boom brothers and then the Lewis boys. And then all of a sudden they brought in Timmy McCumber, and then the next they bring in somebody else. And I think Ward Goss spent a little bit of time there as well. And so anyway, no, it was a lot of fun.
You speak of the Boom brothers. I was looking over your career highlights there. You have a Chad Boom story, I hear.
Yes, you got to fill us in. You got to fill us in.
Because I have a Chad Boom story of my own.
I don't hear that. Funny, I ran into the Boomer there at the ISCs this year. He was playing in the Legends, and anyway, we're just catching up. And anyway, it was great to see him. But my first ISC home run was a grand slam off Chad Boom, and I still got the ball actually here in the man cave here somewhere, and we talk about it every time we see each other.
Well, my Chad Boom story also revolves around a home run. So I think, when was this, Lolly? This would have been, I don't know, but we were playing with Frankenmuth. I don't even know if you were with us this year. It might have been 2004. Anyway, Midland Explorers hosted the ASA, and for whatever reason, they picked up Chad Boom. I guess Kegel weren't into it or whatever, to play with Midland. So we get drawn to play against Midland, Frankenmuth driving school, right? Host team. So I'm throwing to Chad Boom, and he might be batting 3 or 4. First at bat, first inning, I fucking strike him out.
There you go.
I'm like, well,
and
I know he was like Team USA guy, all this stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
So like, next at bat now, probably 4 or 5-0 for them at this point. The next at bat, I'm probably going to try to go with the same kind of routine I did first at bat, right? Well, first pitch I threw to him, I kid you not. You know the main diamond on Midland?
Yeah.
I'd say it landed on second base at a fucking back diamond. It was, to this day, it was the furthest home run I've ever seen hit in a game of Fastpitch softball. And I just laughed. Like, he ran out of the base. I just laughed. I'm like, well, holy shit, that was fucking cool.
And that was back when the bats weren't even the way they are now, right? You see some of the bats that we're using now. And I can remember Colin Abbott was using that. Hilly, remember that black PST where the Eastern
like
PST, little tiny 13-inch barrel, and the rest of it was handle. And for some reason, he's just so good. You barrel everything up, but you just see the guys, everybody's swinging these tin cans and putting the ball 400 feet, right? And I was going to say, Hilly, when you were telling that pitching story, because obviously you had to start with the strikeout, right? And then Ford Nutty must have been a lot of errors, I guess. It
was, yeah. Boys let me down.
Yeah. Well, boys, listen, we'll be here all night if we're going through every year and everything that we've kind of seen LZ go through in this game. So I want to stay on the ISC side of things as a player for right now. So you went from small town PEI, you made a jump out to Winnipeg, you found out what the circuit of the ISC was like. Then the next thing you know, it's 2008, you're on the #1 ranked team in the world with the Kitchener River Shark Twins. And that was really, from my perspective, you made Team Canada in 2006. We'll talk a little bit about your Team Canada career and all that in a little bit. But in 2008, you won your first ISC on a really, really good team. Can you talk a little bit about that year? And I know that's one of the most special moments of your career was winning that first ISC. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was I was starstruck, I guess, going into that squad because you had all the superstar powers with your Ryan Wolfs and Jody Eites and Todd Martins and Frank Cox was there, and just a star-studded lineup. And I remember going into the championship game, and I said, "This is pretty neat to Ryan Wolf," and I said, "Oh," he says, "Yeah, once you win your first one, they'll come in droves." And I remember that night we were down, and then I think Blair hit a home run, Blair Ezigo.
Yep.
And then Jody Ite hit one. And I just remember the at-bats that night, like Dean Holine throwing, and I didn't even see one pitch that come out of his hand, not one. It was just an amazing experience. And I think the most I take out of that season, Lolly, is that how much we were a team. Because you remember the poker tour, and I hate bringing up the poker tour.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
You can spend as much time on that as you like, Gil. Hang on, I got to get my bracelet. It's over there, boys. Passing the bracelet, huh?
But it wasn't all the guys running out and partying and all that stuff. We all stuck together, and we were playing the poker tournament and shooting the shit and having a lot of fun, and we really gelled. And I think that was a huge determining factor in us winning that year. We were very well coached that year as well. But that's one thing that I do take out of that is just how much we were actually a team and how a professional team is to operate. But no, it was pretty neat winning the first one, and the River Shark ring, whatever it came in, I think I wore it for like 6 months without taking it off till my fingers were purple, and I had to take it off.
What was it like sharing the outfield and learning from a guy like Wolfie?
I remember Wolfie going into the first national team camp. That's when I first met him, and I remember that effing little wiffle ball machine they had.
Yeah.
Thunder stick, and I swang 30 times and never even come in the vicinity of the wiffle ball. I remember getting the ball hit to me in the outfield, and I threw it halfway up the backstop, and it wasn't me. And Wolfie took it upon himself to pull me aside. He said, "You're here for a reason. Somebody's seen you play Jeff Ellsworth ball. You go out and be Jeff Ellsworth and don't try to be anybody else, because what Jeff Ellsworth did was good enough for you to get an invite to come here." And on day 2, it was a total 360. So meeting Wolfie there, and then actually now we're actually suiting up together. If I had to say one guy in the sport that I've met, a true professional and the most gentleman of the game, be Ryan Wolf. Yeah.
Yeah. And always in my mind, you're going to be linked with him. You were roommates with him for a lot of your career from that point on out, on the national team, on the ISC side of things. And we all know what it's like being roommates. It's where friendships are formed, but you can learn a lot in that environment, especially if you're rooming with one of the best to ever played a game, Ryan Wolf. But you touched on a couple of things over the last couple of minutes that I've had written down that I want to go a little deeper on. And it's the team chemistry and then really the leadership aspect. And that's what you've really become known for, other than your ability on the field, is your ability to rise up as that leader, to help form that team chemistry. Was that something that came more naturally to you? You're coming from a small town, don't really know, not really established or known in the ISC until you're playing in it. But when did you really look at yourself as a leader and a guy that was driving the culture of the team?
I think it was in my Kegel days, because I think whenever I joined Kegel, whenever they made the offer for me to go to Kegel, they were sort of looking for, someone that can play and that can play defense, but they're missing that leadership piece as well. Prior to game, it was just, get together, say a couple of things and then get at it, but there was no real motivation behind the game plan. So I think with Kegel, I started, and once I did start and step up, then there was some success that came along with it, because Kegel, we finished 32nd in the world, our first ISDs, and then we finished 16th, and then we got down as low as 8th before I took off to Kitchener River Sharks. So I think that's when it all started.
And is that something that wasn't natural, or did it take a little bit of work, or were you able to kind of blend your game and your leadership for have one kind of impact the other positively? Like when you're a leader, did you play better, or did you find trying to focus on a leader maybe at times had a negative impact? How did you approach the leadership aspect of your game?
It was strange, because whenever I first told myself that I was going to actually step up and be more vocal prior to game, I thought I'd be really nervous and lose some sleep over it, but I didn't. And whenever I was in the circle, and one of the things I wanted to do was just test to see how many guys were actually looking at me whenever I was talking, and I had the full attention of the entire squad. So, but then whenever the game started, it was just, all right, that aspect is done, and now it's time to play. But I found myself too in that leadership role that if things went south for an athlete during the game, like if there was a mistake or anything like that, then I want to be that first guy over to say, hey, pick it up here. We got your back or whatever. Like no one goes out there intentionally make a mistake or strike out. So just, learn to let it go. And then I just felt it became easier. And then I started talking to like more and more coaches and leaders like Wolfie and Turk Gallant. Geez, I must say, I don't know how many conversations with Turk, because Turk made the transition from playing in the NHL to being a very successful junior coach all the way up now coaching in the NHL. So anyway, no, I didn't find it that difficult once I started, but yeah,
it's not necessarily an easy thing to do, like to be a captain or to be a leader. Like sometimes you get that, it adds a bit of extra pressure because now you're the guy who all the rest of the team are looking up to. But I can tell you one thing, that the good leaders, they're integral to have, especially for the young kids coming up and the young athletes who join any big league team like the Kitchener River Sharks or Team Canada at the time back when you joined. It just makes it the transition and it just makes it so much easier, right? And kind of relaxes everybody to actually play their own game. It's quite an important job, but like I said, there's people who don't like that to do, like they're not rah-rah guys and they're kind of quiet leaders or like to do it in a different way. But every team there must have.
And I think that's part of it too, Hilly, is that I knew or I understood that not a lot of guys want to be in that situation where they have to look after both aspects of that game. So I just said to myself, why not me? Why not? It doesn't bother me. I can shut it off when it needs to be shut off, and I can step up whenever someone needs either a kick in the arse or a motivation, pat in the back or whatever. But yeah, it didn't really bother me.
Which every player needs at some point, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
And but true leadership comes with the accountability aspect, right? There's one thing to go out and say what you think needs to be said, but then there's a whole other backing it up, whether with your play or your fitness or how you conduct yourself. And when we transition into the national team, because there's 40, 50 club teams that you can go and play on. There's only so many national teams out there and only so many national team spots. And you're a captain on a national team pretty well from 2009 onward. And you can't get to that level without having the leadership in terms of what you say and how you support the team, but always showing up in shape for the beep test and how you conduct yourself. But then when the rubber hits the road in big situations, you're going to go down as one of the most clutch players to ever play. And that's on every aspect of it. And when we look at your sheet, when I think of Jeff Ellsworth, you think a champion, you think a leader. Now you're transitioning into that coaching staff. So there's so much that we can go on here and that we want to touch on. But just looking at the major championships that you've been a part of, right? You're a 5-time ISC champion as a player, and now recently champion this year as a coach, which we're excited to talk to you about. You won 3 Canadian Senior Men's Championships, 4 ASA titles, the Pan Am Games, and the ISFs. That's a pretty storied career to have under your belt. And that's to go along with 84 speeding tickets when you're on the road. I
was going to say, is it fucking Daytona 500 listed there anywhere?
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second. We can backtrack to those measly championships, but holy shit. Like, I've made him part of any team we play with you. I'm not driving with him. I'm not going with him, but like that's your thing. You are a lunatic when you're driving, and it's fun, and you know that it gets the guys going. So my hands are sweating right now thinking about that Florida trip. Over 25 speeding tickets on the road in your career. What's over under?
Over.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the I think the most memorable vehicle experience was in New Zealand. Remember when we started that Newfie TSN?
Yes. Yeah.
We went down to New Zealand. I got in 3 accidents down there. Yeah. You guys don't really know about them, but the first one, actually it was 4.
What?
The first one, the first day we were there, we took the van down underneath the hotel. And there's a little bar going across on 2 chains that if your vehicle is higher than this, you probably shouldn't go underneath it. I got the cargo van wedged underneath the hotel. Ryan Boland was in the vehicle behind me, dying laughing. So I scratched all the top of that van. Number two, we were at practice, and in the back of our vehicle, there was a hitch. Yeah. I backed right into a vehicle. And number three, the rental vehicle that I had, the steering wheel was on the wrong side, so my depth perception was all off.
The wrong side.
And I went to turn in Buddy's Gateway. I hit a cement pillar, scratched all the side of the vehicle. And then when I brought the rental vehicle back, I bumped into another car that was in the parking lot, and I just went out and I left. I was just assuming my vehicle was going to be charged at $25,000, but I never got a charge for it.
I didn't know that. And there was another one. Where were you? In Pennsylvania, where you got pulled over and they wouldn't let you go unless you paid a ticket right on the spot because of the points you got gone?
Yeah, first time ever, Buddy come up to the window and said, "License and credit card, please." I'm like, "What?" License and credit card. I said, "What is it for?" He said, "No, down here, you got to pay it right on the spot." I was like, "Oh, Lord Jesus." So anyway, I went back to the vehicle. He was back there for 25 minutes. He come back to the window and said, "What are we doing? Ordering the white pizza or what?" I said, "That was like 400. It was $422. So just goes to show how fast I was going on that one.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So
the one in Saskatoon there, the legendary one was at a Canadian Championship. I was with the Twins. And anyway, we pulled into the old the Radisson parking lot and the wheel fell off. The actual wheel fell off the front right-hand side of the vehicle. It actually parked itself before the vehicle got parked, the tire. In so hard.
Well, Hilly, remember just on vehicle stories. Remember 2015 we were in the ISCs in Kitchener. we were coming out to go to practice that day, and I had my old work vehicle.
Oh yes.
Where Hilly's sitting in the front, I'm driving, and there's this fly just driving, and he drove bonkers, right? And I was in a bad mood or whatever, and I couldn't get it out. The boys are laughing at me, right? And he landed on the windshield, right? And I said, there he is. And I just threw a left hook, right? Left jab and squat him. But didn't the friggin' windshield bust and go right across? How do I explain this? This is a work vehicle, right? And I've seen Hilly laugh pretty hard over the years. That's one of the hardest times I've ever seen you laugh.
Me and Bradley died. I died.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about a bit of your career. So when you won those 5 ISC championships, and the last 3 of those was part of that Hill United 3-peat. Can you talk a little bit about your experience playing with Hill United, and then we'll talk a little bit about that transition to where you are now in your career with Hill United?
Hill United, what can I say? I can't say enough good about the Hill United Chiefs and how much of a classy organization they are. Pete, Big B, Kenny, God rest his soul, and the whole Hill family, like they just treat you like gold. And it was right from day one. Like, the first year we played with the Chiefs, we lost in the finals in extra innings in 2012. And then to do the 3-peat in 2013, 14, and 15. And, it's one of those things where you walk into a family environment. You look at our team photos when we won the World Championships. It's everybody's in the outfield, and all the family members are there, the cousins are there, and everybody, wives and kids and stuff. And, it was right from day one. There was a lot of talent on the field, and then we just kept adding and kept winning and winning. And it was just a fun 3-peat to be a part of. And that I look at the rings here and something I'll never forget.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, like you said, what can you say? It's certainly been a hell of a ride, man. And it's been a treat to play for Hilly United, to say the least. But now, at the stage of your career, how is it from going from, okay, so these are my teammates last year, these are my buddies, now I got to lead these guys, now I'm the coach. Speak on that a little bit, and how that came to be, I guess, and what it's been like for you with the transition.
Well, before pre-COVID, it was a conversation that Pete and I had, because the last ISCs we finished 4th, and Pete pulled me aside and said, "What's your plans?" And I said, "Pete, to be honest, my body's telling me." Because the last game that we played, I hit an infield single, tried to run it out, and my groin was just enormously sore. And Pete said, "Well, what about the head coach GM?"
You would have sucked that bull nuts there last going off.
Yeah. But he said, "No." He said, "Do you want to be the coach GM?" And I'm like, "Seriously?" And he says, "Yeah." I said, "Well, no problem. I said, I don't even have to think about it. I said, the Hill family's been so good to me since 2012. I said, it's a no-brainer. It's whatever the Chiefs need right now, then I'm in. So then COVID happened. So obviously you guys, I think, played in Florida in January. I couldn't make it down to that. And that was the only tournament that was played in 2019, 2020. And then this year in 2021, you know what, to be honest, Hilly, it was probably one of the first times in my ball career. And I know all you guys, I was extremely nervous going into it. I can say that now after the fact. I've caught myself upstairs, like doing like signs in the mirror and all this stuff, just to make sure I don't screw up and studying what's the best sequence for a hit and run and all this bullshit. And I'm like, geez, what are you stressing for? But it was weird, like to throw on the uniform and put on coaching shoes and not cleats and stuff like that. And getting to the field and going to that first huddle. Now you're not a player captain. Now you're the coach. So now you're expected to say, when you're a captain or whatever, you can, not that you bullshit, but there's some leniency there. But now when you're at the head of the ship, there's a little more pressure. But, and this was a unique situation where we're walking into 2021 and in Minnesota, we haven't played in a long time. And we know that it was going to be some rust there, like all of you boys in Newfoundland were playing, right? So there was going to be some rust, but man, it was quite a ride this past summer. And whenever it was over, like traveling to the ballpark with Pete and Johnny and not with the boys in a vehicle,
right?
That was different. But having a conversation with Turk, I run into Turk at the local hardware store here, and we sort of talked about making that transition from player to now coach. And he said, LZ said, the number one thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to create that divide. No matter how bad you want to go and sit with the boys or go with the boys or whatever, there's got to be that divide. If there's no divide, whenever it's time to keep the athletes accountable, the credibility is not going to be there. So you have to create that divide right from the get-go and be firm on all your decisions and display an enormous amount of confidence. No matter if it's the right decision, if it blows up in your face, you be confident in everything that you do.
Well, that advice was taken well, because that's how you showed up down there. But it would have been, I'm sure, a stressful situation or a bit of a transition in any year. But this was a really unique year with Hilly United Chiefs organization for a number of different reasons.
Yes.
Didn't have the success that was expected or used to having over the last couple of ISC seasons going into this. There was a ring one in 2019 at the ASA, but the ISC is the crown jewel for that family, this organization. And then this year, having previously finished fourth in the last couple of ISCs, and then wanting to pay honor to Kenny Hill, who passed away, and get the whole organization back on top. That's a lot of expectation or a lot to handle from a coaching side of things, let alone when you're transitioning from player to your first time in the ISC. How did that weigh on your mind going into this season?
Yeah, it added some pressure for sure. And then once we found out Folkart couldn't be in the mix, and then obviously Shalesy didn't make it down, it was sort of a hurdle to overcome. But knowing the pieces of the puzzle that were left, I really thought that the Hilly United Chief family, like by adding the speed that we did with Isaac and Avery, and then pulling the trigger and calling Walsh whenever we needed to, and then when Caleb went down with injury, and then signed Devin. That's one thing about the Hill United family. They're always going to support any decision that you have to make the team that much better. And they're not afraid to pull a trigger and make decisions like that. But anyway, going back to your original question, it added some pressure, but at the end of the day, it's a winning organization. And Pete told me, he said, just don't finish fourth. I think it was going on the plane to the ISD. He said, please don't finish fourth. We don't have Shalesy, we don't have Folkart. Just please don't finish fourth, and I'll be happy. And that took a lot of pressure off right there. And I think he might have sensed that either the coaches or some of the players were kind of nervous going into the ISC because of the prior two finishes. But anyway, Pete really gets it, and he understands. And you know what? I'm really excited for the whole Chiefs organization this year. It was a great win. It was an exciting game. Hilly clutch as usual. And yeah, it was this one. I don't remember a whole lot. I don't know if it was my age or what, but this one, I remember that finish for a long, long time. I must have watched it 1,000 times from the link you sent around, Molly.
Yeah, that was a pretty special one. And,
Oh.
and when we look back, we just listed off your accomplishments. And when you look back, do you more associate your career as the playing, or how was that transition from playing? Because Hilly and I now, I guess you coach us a little bit here now on the podcast. We're nearing the end. How did you find that transition out of playing at a really high level to then no longer having player as a part of your identity, and then immediately shifting into coach? How did you handle that transition into retirement from playing?
Well, to be totally honest, if it wasn't for the junior men's national team program, I think I would have struggled with the retirement aspect of not playing ball anymore. Whenever I was in my last seasons with the national team and then playing ISC, Team Canada needed a junior men's coach.
Right.
And I found that as soon as I get into coaching at that high level, my coaching candle got lit. So years ago, whenever you and I, Lolly, got into the sport and when we made the national team playing ISCs, my candle was like huge. It was gargantuous. I thought it was going to burn until I was like 85. Yeah. And nothing could ever replace playing at the highest level. But then I walked into 16, 17-year-olds with the best in Canada. And I remember the first time we came together at our meetings, and their eyes are as big as hockey pucks, and they're absorbing everything that's coming out of your yap. My candle, I can honestly say my candle is probably bigger than my playing candle ever thought of being, because now in the junior men's role, you get to give back to these guys, and you know what career could be in front of them is, can I point them in that direction? And to be totally honest, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it here now, and seeing a guy like Justin Laskowski, who was on my first junior men's national team. Right. Now he's on the senior men's team, and Isaac Lefebvre is knocking at the door, and the list goes on and on. That's a pretty special feeling. And if it wouldn't have been for the junior men's program and coaching at that high level, I think I would have had a really, really hard time with the retirement, because when you play and you train and you set goals year after year after year, and you work hard to attain them, and then all of a sudden you're done playing, it was a pretty empty feeling, but the coaching really filled that void.
Yeah, and a lot of the guys we talk to who are now retired, and they say one of the hardest parts is just not being around the fellas every weekend. And so that's kind of the bonus that you got now as a coach. Like you're retired as a player, and you still got to draw that line, like you said, but you're there with the boys, you're battling, you still got that stress level, that nervous feeling, and, you're around and you see everything going on, and that, certainly makes it easier, no doubt.
Yeah, big time. And you know what, Hilly? It's seeing the success that really got me going over the years. Like, like Lolly, when you hit your 3 home runs there in Saskatoon, like, and seeing the look in your face, like after you hit the first one, the second one, the third one, it's those facial expressions, and then expressing the confidence and, the joys and the excitement. It's seeing the boys have success. That's what really fired me up as an athlete playing. And now with the coaching aspect, when you can coach at the ISCs, now you can do it the same thing with with Team Canada. And man, oh man, it's just, I can't say enough good about the coaching aspect, and everybody should do it.
Yeah. But you as a coach, you're in an interesting spot, because there's a lot of great ball players that have gone down and will continue to go down as the best to ever play the game. But there's only a handful that have made that transition into coaching, and coaching in the men's game. You see a lot of top players like a Travis Wilson or Michael White, and these guys will go on and they'll coach in the women's program. Mark Smith is another good example. But there's some great ball players and coaches out there who have played, but there's only a handful that would have been a world champion at the ISC, Pan Am Games champion, ISF world champion, junior men's coach, and that credibility now. So you're a bit of a unicorn when it comes to just your overall softball resume, and you're taking that now to coach at the highest level. So you've just recently, you took over Hill United. That commands that respect, because you're an ISC MVP. You won it in 2015. So anything you speak to as a coach, but you can also carry the credibility of you gone through it as a player. And it's really cool to see you go from where you were as a young player to what you accomplished in your career. And now you've you're a goal-setting guy. We know that about you. But you got to the junior national team program. Then it was a really quick snowball for your coaching career to get established, to go coaching minor in your spare time as a player. Yeah. And then boom, you get the head coaching position for the junior men's national team. That's a really big role to take on. And then you go to an assistant coaching role now with the senior men's and the head coach and GM of the now world champions. It's a pretty big whirlwind, and hats off to you for being able to achieve that. How do you balance all the different hats you need to wear now in your personal coaching career and all that? It's a lot to take on. So how are you prioritizing? What's that look like for you?
Right now, you know what is the communication piece, Lolly, with the Hilly United Chiefs now. Obviously, talking to Pete and Johnny on a bi-daily basis, and just lining up the roster for next season, lining up the tournaments, and as far as my coaching hats or whatever, but I'm super fortunate that as you and Hilly, we've had great coaches going up through the ranks here, with your father Jason and Johnny Stewart. Les Howie. So we had phenomenal coaches going up and learning from them. And, it's not a big juggling act. It's just that Johnny Stewart runs a phenomenal program with the men's program. It's unbelievably organized, very professional. And the same thing with Hill United Chiefs, just taking off the lead from what Johnny Hill did for a number of years with them. And, it may seem like a lot, but it's great conversations because Pete will call and, I'm down in Miami there. It's plus 35 degrees. And, we're talking about this player and that player. And let's go to this tournament. And, it's exciting.
Right.
That's what it is. Coaching is exciting. And when something is exciting, it doesn't even feel like work or there's any effort whatsoever. It just comes natural.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to get back to New Zealand again, too, eh?
Yep.
Yeah, just that rivalry and that that atmosphere that's always down there in New Zealand.
Yeah. No,
and maybe practice driving with the friggin' wheel on the other side of the car before you go back down there.
You might have to pay your fines at the border.
I don't know.
They let you back in.
They may not let me in. Is right. Yeah. But no, it's actually going to be great to go back to New Zealand. Looking forward to Argentina in February, like the qualifier, and getting back on top there in February, and then rolling that success into New Zealand. And it's the same thing when they come here. It's always the main event whenever New Zealand and Canada play, and you can just feel the intensity. And I remember when my first game coaching at the junior men's national team was Canada versus New Zealand in my first World Juniors. So it's the exact same thing at the juniors as it is in the seniors, and it's going to be quite a battle.
Well, you talk about that. That's a big rivalry that we've been a part of. We talked about it on this podcast in almost every episode now. And you talked about the great coaches that we've had. And there's some real memorable moments from your playing career, from just that rivalry. But in 2015, and it's more around the coaching side of things and Johnny Stewart for a minute. When we were down 5-0 in that championship game, and you've said it over and over again, that's one of the highlights of your career is what he did as a coach, I think, in the third inning there.
Yeah. And, Johnny Stewart, I'll talk about a situation before that and how a really good coach instills confidence in athletes to prepare them for game-changing moments. I don't know if you guys remember or not. It was earlier in the week. Devin was pitching on the mound. And anyway, we were pitching a great game. And he could have actually closed out the game. But Johnny Stewart put him back out there in the seventh inning, got one out, and then took him out of the game so he can get that standing ovation and feel everybody in his hometown just fire him right up.
That's cool.
And the thought process there was to instill a bunch of confidence and make him feel really good about himself for maybe a big moment down the road. And at that time, Johnny Stewart didn't know what opportunity he was going to present in front of Devin, but Devin was the main guy to come in that ball game to shut the door. But going back to Johnny's third inning speech, game changer. It lit a fire under everybody. Down 5-0, who cares? Look at our roster, 1 through 9. We could score 15 runs of an inning if we wanted to. And then you took it to another level and hit 3 bombs from the third inning on. Jesus Christ. Johnny Stewart, to me, done a lot of the little things absolutely spot on right. And that was a game changer. Those two moments really stuck out in my 2015 ISF experience.
Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly is supported by Miller Lite. Great Pilsner taste with only 90 calories and 3 grams of carbs per serving. After a tough game, it's always Miller time. Please drink responsibly.
Elsie, there's been a lot of funny moments too. Just over the year, we touched on your driving and things like that. But you mentioned Shalesy's name earlier. We talked about it on his episode, and I told him and you that if when we got you on here, we wanted to talk about the time that you had Shalesy down in PEI, and there's a video of him skating. Just tell us about that trip, man, because when you send that video out every year, it's a highlight for me.
Well, I put the hockey video on, but there's the hockey video, the curling video, the toboggan and hill asthma attack, and driving in the Bronco and getting stuck in the middle of the road. And we had the guy living across the road come with the tractor, tried to pull us out. He got stuck. Buddy come with the 4-wheel, he got stuck. And the government snowplow had to come tow the 3 of us out all on the same day.
This is the first time in snow.
Oh, this is absolutely the first time. Shalesy comes, all right, we're going to experience all these sports. So anyway, we start with the hockey. And I don't know, for those of you that don't know Shalesy, he is about a size 19 foot. So here I am going through all of the town of O'Leary trying to find a skate the size of a ski pole. And anyway, lo and behold, we find it. And he hits the ice, and holy shit, Bambi on ice. It was just legs were going every which way. He had to give him a hockey stick to balance himself on. And anyway, he gets a shot on net. But anyway, he did not too bad. Then in the same parking lot, we would go over to the curling club, and we taught him how to come out the hack. Well, as soon as he came out the hack, he let go of the rock, and his chin hit the ice. Yeah. But then now the weather's sort of picking up and it's getting a little chilly outside. Then we go to the toboggan hill at Middle River, and poor Jen took an asthma attack walking up the hill. It was like minus 35 degrees. We go down the hill, Shalesy and Nick on a toboggan, and then Jen took an asthma attack walking back up the hill or whatever. So we shut that down. And then all of a sudden we go down the road, and all of a sudden Shalesy goes, "Where'd the road go?" And then we just hit a drift, and we were done after that. And we just buried the Jeep right in the middle of the road. Yeah.
I swear, I got my little fella in can skate. every Saturday, I'm just watching him kind of hack around the ice, right, step around, and I think of Shalesy every Saturday. I was like, "Wes is better than him already."
Yeah. Well, he had a size 19. He has a size 19 foot, and I bet you had a size 8 skate on. The toes are just crunch right up.
That's wicked.
Yeah. Hilly, just talking about funny moments, memorable moments with Elsie here. That trip to Colombia, we've talked about it a couple of times. That was a real cool trip. One of my favorite pictures I got is the 3 of us in the conference room with that trophy. I got it framed. It's awesome. It was cool to go down there and come back with a gold medal, and that's great. But Hilly, do you remember when Elsie went in, he saw that cop up on the horse, and then we're over coming in. Next thing we know, we turn around. And here's Elsie sitting on top of the horse with the friggin' with the helmet on. Do you remember that, Hilly?
I do. Yeah. It was one of the 15 horses they had guarding our softball game every game, along with the militia.
Yeah, that cost me my hat. I had a Great Canada hat for a ride on the horsey.
Well, you do that when we go on trips. You're sneaking off to do something, right? And so that was hilarious. You turn around, here he is. He's like the freaking mounted police up there, and they were one step away from taking the bullets out and giving you the AK-47 to hold, I think.
Well, what was the buddy doing there whenever he was driving the transportation vehicles down there? What was in the brown bag? You remember that? And I said, "What's the driving laws down there?" There's no driving laws whatsoever down here. Holy, no. The reek alcohol, him driving down there.
Oh, was it? I didn't remember that. I thought you were going to say it was a gun or something.
No. And Hilly, where were you Friday night during the 1-versus-2 game when the lightning storm hit?
In the closet.
Underneath the sink in the bathroom downstairs. We're like, "Holy shit, this is some lightning show." And where's Hilly underneath the sink in the bathroom behind the dugout?
No, fuck that.
Yeah, he's not one for the thunder and lightning, boys. But that was awesome. But when I I think about that trip, and I also, when I think about you in a Team Canada uniform, you'll go down and you're viewed as an ambassador to the game, but also an ambassador for the country for Team Canada. I know that's a role that you've taken very seriously over the years, and you always take it upon yourself. Either you go out yourself and you buy these pins, or you always go down there, especially to some of these countries like Colombia or Mexico or wherever, and always giving out Canadian swag or things like that to the kids. And what does that mean for you to be able to go out, come from a town of 32 people in O'Leary, to be one of the captains on the national team and an ambassador for the country?
Yeah, and that's, just one little gift or whatever to a kid down there. I remember going to the ISF and ISCs and stuff in Summerside and meeting some players and, getting a little gift, whether it be a little keychain or a little pin or something like that. So I feel it's super important that when you go to another country, just to show a little bit of hospitality, like from the Canadian boys. And you know what? It sort of translates to the ballpark too, because I don't know if you remember in Colombia, we were playing Venezuela in the final, and the amount of people that were there, I think a lot of them had old Canada tattoos on and stuff, and they're cheering for us.
Yep.
So strategically as well, like you want to have the fans sort of on your side. And do you remember the final out and all the players that swarmed the field and stuff like that? And they're like very gracious that we were down there, and it's just one of those little things that I think goes a long way with young kids.
Yeah, I remember walking to the bus and I had, I might have had my glove and my bat and a pair of socks on. They took everything else on me, with jersey, every batting gloves, everything.
But it makes you feel good though, because when you see, and especially on the kids, and then you see the parents' faces with that. I know what it's like now, being a father now, and just seeing when someone does something nice for the kids, or if you're a coach or you're around these and you see athletes that are down there in pressure situations, but they prioritize doing that. You've always done that year over year with the national team, and it was awesome.
Remember we were down with Mexico. We played with Yucatan, and we're down that Mexico tournament, whatever. And I bought it. There was one little kid. He was around the park the whole time, and all he did was stare, And we brought him on the field, and I said, "You want to have a game of catch?" Yeah. I said, "Do you have a glove?" No. And then I told Carlos, I said, "Ask him if he has a glove home." And he said, "No." So anyway, I went up and bought him a glove. Anyway, we left. The very next year we went back. Who was the first person I seen at the park with the glove and a ball in the glove was that same young fella.
No way, man.
And jumped right on the field, play catch again. And, I just hope someday I get back to that tournament, just because that kid, I bet you now, would be 14, 15 years old. He was just a wee little fellow back in the day.
Was that the tournament Lally turfed it, run around second base?
That was the one where, I believe I can fly.
As soon as you mentioned that tournament, I said, "Here, Hilly's going to start throwing."
We should get the boys to find that video and post it to our site.
All right, there you go. It's one of the most embarrassing but hilarious things. And someone put together a video. I think it was Carlos.
Was it off Darren Zach?
It was Darren Zach. Yeah. The legend. I hit a triple. We're up 6-0 or something. I don't know what I was at going around third. It must have been heat stroke, but it was 45 degrees. And so I'm going to leg this out to third, and then bango right down. And it's I'm not proud of that. But what did he do? He put the video out where it's me running around, and they put in the Chuck Norris sniper video. Start falling. Oh, man. So, hats off to him for doing that. That was fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's so much, Elsie, to chat with you. We're going to have to get you back on to go through a lot of these more memorable moments. And the great thing is that we've been tied to you, and we've been tied to each other pretty well our whole softball career. And it's great to see you making that jump to coach Team Canada. It was a privilege playing with you and for you this season. What you did down there and the guys on our team. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about, because it was really significant in how you coached the team this year. So there's just two things. And then I know I prefaced it earlier today if we could, and then you can update our listeners on some of the developments with the Hill United roster. But can you talk a little bit about when all those things came to be, knowing what the final roster was going to be going into the ASA and then the ISC, just really how you handled the pitching staff and the coaching pitching by committee? Where was that the game plan going in, or was that kind of a game time decision and adjustment down there?
No, it was just one of those, we're going to start with this guy, but what I sort of look for was, and I know I explained it to a couple of players down there. Like, it's just, I'm looking for hard contact and consistent hard contact in the lineup. If we started with Pablo, well, if Pablo gets through 1 through 6 and there's only been really one guy that has hard contact or whatever, then we're going to keep him going. And, but if there's an opportunity, or if a time presents itself in the game where there's more hard contact than not, and sometimes you're going to get outs, but they're going to be like line drive outs, but it's not going to record like hits in the game or whatever. But I was really looking for that hard contact. And, it was one of those where we've only been playing for 3 weeks now. So get them in, get them out. And we had 3 guys that could do the job. And, and then we had the 4th option as well. So if Pablo comes out of the game, then we could put in Patty, then Devo, but then we can re-enter Pablo in a situation later in the game against guys that had soft contact against them. So it was always a strategy of Johnny and I's to try to use them all and give them different looks. Because you look at the Gremlins lineup, and the Gremlins lineup is stacked top to bottom. And if you're going to see a guy more than twice in a game, they're going to get figured out. They're professional hitters. So it's just, can you allow your starter to go anywhere from 12 to 16 batters and then give them a different look, provided there hasn't been any consistent hard contact? So that was a strategy going in, and, it did work. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. Like, obviously it could have went south in a hurry as well, but we're very fortunate that it did. And I think with our staff this year, with Pablo really stepping up on the velocity and then his change of speed, and then Patty with the hard down and Devo with the hard up, I think they really complemented one another this year.
Yeah, and even the teams we played, you look like all the teams we played, we've seen at least 2 pitchers. It's
yep.
It seemed to be kind of the way it's going right now, because like you said, every team, especially the top 6, 7, 8 teams, are professional hitters. Yep. Once or twice around the lineup, and there's only so many tricks. You're not going to fool guys, right?
I think you're going to see a lot of teams actually go and try to sign that really good number 3 moving forward, because you're only allowed to sign 3 throwers. Only 3 throwers can pitch at the ISC, so you want to make sure that your third guy has the ability to go in a situation where it could be the determining factor whether or not you're going to stay in the World Tournament.
Right.
So, there's a couple of teams that were there, but they only had 2 throwers. Had they had a third one, then who knows what would have happened. Yeah.
Well, that's a good segue, I guess, because this is the time of the year when those moves and decisions are made and rosters are evaluated and player decisions are done. And you've had a busy few weeks with Johnny and Pete and the rest of the sponsorship group and management team. You want to share what the Hilly United roster is going to look like and some changes? Yeah,
we're going to be extremely fortunate, obviously, to have Folkart and Chalsey back in the lineup on a regular basis. And then newcomers to the Chiefs this season. We have Daniel Chapman coming from New Zealand. He's going to be pitching with Pablo and Adam. And then we have Thomas Anoka coming over as well. Alan Pecker from Argentina. Cody Gibbons from USA. And then we have Pipolo Lopez coming from Mexico as well. So we've added some new names to our roster, some good quality guys, phenomenal ball players in and amongst what we currently have right now. And it's going to be an exciting start to the season in the end of January in Fort Myers.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, man. And hopefully with everything going on now, we're back on track and have a full season and do our weekend thing on the road, and just excited to get going now. Just got to get through a winter.
Yeah. And we had to make some tough decisions there with some of the players not returning. Some of the players actually decided that they wanted like a more a starter role, which is great, which is very commendable. So we wish everyone that was in the Chiefs uniform last year all the best. 2022 is going to be an exciting season, and we're going to be locked and loaded and ready to go.
Well, that's awesome, buddy, and it's been a treat to get you on here. And as I mentioned a couple of times, we didn't even really touch on your Team Canada career as a player in in snippets, but there's just so much to go through with you. We want to get you back on to go through the Team Canada stuff, but a really incredible career as a player, an inspiring story to go from the small town to top of the world as a player, transition into achieving all the goals as a player, and then on the coaching side. So just for the benefit of our listeners out there or other coaches or people who have aspirations within the game themselves, you got any advice for a junior age player looking to make that transition up within the ISC or up within and get on the radar for Team Canada? Any advice to pass on to them?
Yeah, my advice for any athlete, like coaching hockey there now too, is drown out the distractions. There's so many distractions in today's world and today's society with electronics and social media and negativity and stuff like that. Is just drown out the distractions, put the blinders on, stare straight ahead. And at the end of the day, it's you are making the decisions, and you have to be able to live with the decisions that you make. So you have a choice to not let the distractions guide you in a different path. If your goals and dreams are to wear the maple leaf, well, you have, like I talked to some of the junior men's last cycle that I coached in Saskatchewan, and I've talked to them since, and they asked the exact same question. And you know what? You're part of the family. You have the resources. You have the ability to reach out and talk to players. How did you get there? You can talk to a coach. How did you get there? We can give you a plan, but you have to make the decision to block out the distractions. And there's so many of them out there in the world right now, and you got to be the one making that choice and nobody else.
Yeah, well, it is. And to hear it be passed on from someone that's gone through everything you had, that is now making those decisions at the ISC level, at the part of the staff that's making that on the Team Canada level. It's something that is very important to be passed on, and thank you for doing that. And basically you're giving advice that's about how you drive. Put the blinders on and look out for the distractions. But it's fantastic that you're still in the game. You're still in the game at a very high level. And Hilly, it's another fantastic episode, one of the best in the game. And we're lucky to get Elsie on here to walk us through a little bit of what he's done and his approach and his mindset.
Absolutely, buddy. It was an honor, obviously, to play with you, and it's a pleasure to play now for you. And looking forward to the upcoming season and a couple national team events. So, thanks for coming on, buddy.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys. This is a lot of fun, and I'm actually shocked about how much shit I remembered. So, this is a lot of fun. Put a big smile on my face.
And one thing I do want to touch on. So, I do this to the boys all the time. When we're on our way out, I got to pull us back in. But I asked Devo last week. We brought it up with Bradley and Hilly. Really big horizon for the Team Canada events that are coming up. A lot of big events on the horizon, I should say. Where's your head at going into your first stint as a coach in the Pan Am Championships and now preparing for the ISFs?
So my role is where my head is right now is, I'm here to support and sort of assist in the hitting aspect of the game or the mental approach of the game. So basically right now is everybody has their own routine, what they do, how they train. When we get to Argentina, my job is just going to be checking in with all the athletes on a daily basis and not interfering, but checking in to see if they need any help, assistance, or guidance along the way, and just be a resource for the boys, whether it's planned hitting, whether it's, how do I think about certain situations, or how do I think in certain situations, and how to block out the ants, I call them, automatic negative thoughts, and just sort of help them get through. There's going to be some guys that are coming to their first Team Canada event and wearing that jersey for the first time, and you boys know exactly how that feels. So it's just acting as a resource. And, obviously my personal goal is gold or nothing. That's what the approach is going to be, hopefully. And anyway, we'll see what happens, but super excited and just can't wait to get down there.
Well, that's awesome. And the roster just came out. You guys have put together a fantastic team that's given our country an opportunity to go down there and come back with a gold medal. So really excited to see how things progress on that front. But as Hilly said, buddy, can't thank you enough for coming on. It's always great to get caught up with you, and can't wait to get you back on here soon. And we'll see you. We'll see you soon. I think we're planning a trip down there, and we'll get caught up. Might go out, do some curling and some skating probably while we're down there. But Hilly, another great episode in the books, and we got Lucas and Nick here. Give us a bit of rum ragged to take us out.
Get out of here! I told you, Mr. Drama.
I used to be a ladies' man, but I'm unhappy now. For courting 6 girls all at once they used me.
Say bye-bye baseball!
My mother said it was naughty, I should kiss her goodbye. But I said if it's naughty, sure it's also very nice.
And the lolly drops his glove, grabs Dalton. The benches are clearing.